but we can always go ahead and get started as we wait for her to join us. So I'd like to begin by introducing my guests, and we're going to be talking about the outbreak of coronavirus in Gaza and what it's like on the ground and what that means. As of today, there are at least 145 identified cases of coronavirus in Gaza, and 3 people have died. Now, we're going to be talking more about this, but when I say identified cases, this is all we know of that's going on, but we expect things to get much worse. And we are joined by 3 guests, and 2 are with us so far. We'll continue to work on getting the 3rd on. So we have with us Mona Msaddar. Did I pronounce that correctly, Mona?
It's okay. Most of people, especially people in Gaza, mispronounce it, so it's okay.
Would you pronounce it for us?
Well, it's Muna Msaddar.
I'm not going to try. But Mona has worked as an English teacher and trainer for over 3 years. She loves her students and feels responsible to give them everything she can of her personality and knowledge. And Mona is going to be speaking with us today about what life is like in Gaza right now, in terms of the siege and the occupation, and now the pandemic as well. And we're also joined by Basman Derawi. You would pronounce that for me as well.
Basman Derawi.
Wonderful. And Basman was born in Kuwait and lived in Kuwait for 2 years before coming to Gaza. As a psychotherapist for the Ministry of Health in Gaza, he graduated from this university in 2010, and he thinks of the writing that he does with We Are Not Numbers as a tool to use to change the world. And we're going to be joined by working on getting on. Oh, and we're just getting her on. Yes, please correct me.
I'm physiotherapist, not psychotherapist.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I read that incorrectly. Physiotherapist with the Ministry of Health in Gaza. And then just getting on to join us is Hanan Abu Kmail. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Hanan, welcome. And did I pronounce your name anywhere close to correctly?
Yes, I'm Hanan Abu Kmail, an internship doctor in Gaza Strip at Ministry of Health.
Fantastic.
I am a member and we are not.
Wonderful. Hanan, your sound is a little tough. I don't know if you have earphones that might make it better. Otherwise, we will just push through and make do with it. But Hanan, for anyone who didn't hear that, is wonderful. Is a medical intern with a special interest in oncology research. Since the coronavirus outbreak in Gaza, she's been educating the public there about the pandemic and helping to manufacture masks. And let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with you, Basman. If you can just tell us, just give us an update about what's going on the ground right now.
Yeah, well, last Monday, the government here in Gaza announced that there is 4 cases of coronavirus from inside Gaza, not from the people who return and quarantined. And since then, the number is increasing. And today, I think the cases is 185 active case, and 3 people have died so far. And there is a complete lockdown for 2 days, and it can be extended for another, we don't know, like 2 days or maybe more. We're still in the process.
Before we move on, I just want to tell folks that all three of our guests today are members of the organization We Are Not Numbers, and we're going to talk more about We Are Not Numbers as we move forward. But just to give a little overview, We Are Not Numbers was founded in 2015 by American journalist and dear friend of mine, Pam Bailey. And they work to mentor and work with and lift up Palestinian writers in Gaza and tell the stories that so often are forgotten about what it's like in Gaza and the human condition, so to humanize this life under siege and occupation. Now, I know as well that there have been airstrikes, continuous, ongoing airstrikes in the past week and weeks. How has that been in the midst of this pandemic as well? And any one of you want to jump in?
Like, it was a terrible experience to have like the pandemic and the airstrike and also the 4 hours of electricity. It was very stressful to Gazan here to handle all these issues in the same time. So it was terrible.
Hanan, you're working in the medical field and monitoring this very closely. How quickly is this spreading, and how concerned are people, including yourself?
Okay, if we want to talk about Gaza Strip is a place where the health infrastructure is almost not exist. So when we know about the COVID-19 outbreak, but I want to ask, my voice is clear?
Yes, it's much better.
Yes.
Okay, as I mentioned, the Gaza Strip is a place where the health infrastructure is almost not exist. So when we talk about COVID-19 outbreak in Gaza Strip, we can call it as a humanitarian crisis.
I think the sound went a little out for a moment. If you can just repeat. All right, we're struggling a bit with connection, which is not uncommon in Gaza, so if folks can just bear with. Hanan, I think we've now lost your sound.
A humanitarian crisis. Also, we know that Gaza Strip is under the blockade. Okay, Strip is a place where the health. Really? Can you hear me?
It's quite difficult. How about we move on a little bit, and then we'll come back to you. And if you want to try to maybe if move locations, or I know Wi-Fi connections in Gaza are quite challenging, so we'll just keep working on it. Mona, if I can move over to you, I understand that your mother. Sure. I understand that your mother works as a teacher in the refugee camp where the first COVID cases were identified. If you could tell our viewers and listeners about that, and also tell us the story of the woman who triggered the alarm about what's going on.
Okay, well, first of all, it was on Monday, the last Monday. It was a hard day for all of us. Ironically, the first part of the day was amazing, so we spent it with winners because we had a meeting about movie club. And then the rest of the day was about COVID-19 entering Gaza, which was really difficult. So about my mother, that's true. My mother is a teacher in another school in the camp. Well, it talks about, the first news came as one of her students is infected by COVID-19. Then after 20 minutes, her principal phoned her and just told her that, okay, it's not the student. Well, it's a lady that went to Jerusalem to Al-Muttala hospital with her little kid. She was almost 3 years or 2 years and a half, and she got infected by COVID-19. Well, the girl inside the school, it's not infected. Then at midnight, the same principal phoned my mother and told her that, well, the girl was infected by COVID-19, which was horrible for us to know because we were panicking that my mother might be infected, or teachers in school might be infected. Also, since we are talking about school, we have a huge number of kids that attend this school, and they might be infected also. So we were worried about many things, about my mother, the school itself, the students. Also, we worried about the camp itself, since my aunt lives in the same camp and it was completely locked down. About, you
Wow.
asked something about the lady, I guess I can't hear you probably.
Yes, I was asking about the woman who first identified and broke the story of the cases.
Oh, I am so sorry, your voice is not that clear.
Let's try. Let me know if this is any better. No. Can others of you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, well, let's move on in the moment, and we'll just keep working on it, knowing that, yeah, sound is definitely challenging. The connection is challenging, and that's all right. It's worth it for everybody who's listening. So, Basman, We Are Not Numbers launched a project called the COVID Diaries. Can you tell us about your first entry?
Yes, COVID Diaries is a project launched by We Are Not Numbers to encourage the writer to write about the first reaction of the announcement of COVID in Gaza, and about the daily life through the lockdown, how they cope with that, what they do in the time of the lockdown, and so. My first entry was about last Monday, the day of the announcement of the 4 cases, and it was an ordinary day. I went to my work, and then I went to the We Are Not Numbers office. There was an activity about movie. It's called Movie Club, and we discuss movie, and we discuss why we love movie and what movie is our favorite, and so. And then I went to my aunt's house to visit her, and at 11 p.m. the government announced that there is 4 cases. There are 4 active cases of COVID from inside Gaza Strip, and it was as Mona said, we were panicking. It was like surprise. We were terrified, and I write about all these events in my first entry with We Are Not Numbers, and with my poem I write about, because it was 4 hours of electricity and 4 active cases of COVID, and at the same day 4 Palestinian killed by an Israeli attack, and it was like, whether it's the 4 or we live in such a mad reality and mad world. And that was my first entry with the COVID Diaries.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Mona, we're going to try to go back to you, and I am typing the question to you in the chat box. Oh, it says I cannot chat with you. Then we're going to try to go to Hanan momentarily, and then we'll try to come back again to Mona. Hanan, I hear that you're helping to educate the public in Gaza about the facts of coronavirus. Could you tell us how you're doing that, especially now with the lockdown in place, and what you've learned about people's biggest misconceptions and fears?
Okay. First, before talking about the increasing awareness, I want to mention that youth in Gaza can play a role in raising awareness by reaching out to more people and encourage them to be conscious about their responsibilities to protecting themselves and others in the community. And based on this idea, we start increasing awareness about COVID-19 using social media mainly, as we are in as we are isolated in the as we stay at home. We're using the social media like WhatsApp and Facebook by writing evidence-based content about COVID-19. And for example, the last Friday we did me and a doctor Facebook lives talking about the protective measures during the COVID-19 outbreak in Gaza Strip, encouraging people to follow the instructions of the Ministry of Health, talking about the symptom and the sign of COVID-19, how we can protect ourselves, how we can protect the beloved one, and some information related to COVID-19. So the increasing awareness level, we did it through the social media mainly.
Mona, I think your sound is now going out a little bit, but that's okay. We've gotten some time in, and so we're gonna. Sorry, Hanan. I mean, I think your sound is going back out again, and we can see you talking, but I can't hear you. So we're gonna move back over to Mona because we've got Mona back on, and I think we've got a plan for the sound. So Mona, how concerned and scared are you, and how is your family reacting? How much panic is there among the public? We see a lot of this reflected on social media, but what are you observing personally?
Okay, well, when it comes to fear, it's a little bit hard to define the word fear, as it's not only related to our feelings towards something, because we are not really afraid that we might be infected of COVID-19. Well, we are afraid, but not that much. We have many things to be afraid or concerned about. For example, I was afraid that we will not be able to go outside because I was worried about my work as an English trainer and about my students. Plus, I didn't get my payment yet. It's supposed to be by the end of the last week, and I didn't get it yet. Another thing that happened, I was afraid that we won't be able to get medicine for my aunt. She lives with us, and she has diabetes, so it will be hard for her to spend a day without her medicine. Besides that, we also worried that my grandmother won't be okay since she make an operation before the lockdown, and she's only 75 and she's sick. And besides, we didn't go to visit her recently because she was very sick. Furthermore, we were really afraid that we will be run of flour and water. Well, actually, we spent the first 3 days without water, and we had to pour some water from my uncle's house until the water carrying truck came to us, and it was allowed to have water in our house. So I also remember yesterday was something very sad for me that we were allowed to go to the supermarket and buy something since my mother didn't get her salary yet. By the end of the month, and we didn't have enough money in the house. So my cousin just went to the supermarket, and we just only give him a list of some sugar and tea, while they bring many things, including cheese, sugar, everything that you can think of that will be very important for you. They just bring it. So I was looking at the carrying, and we have small packets, and they have some amount of food and etc. So it was really, I was really overwhelmed about that. Beside all of this, I was really afraid that we won't be able to offer basic things to our family, starting with food, electricity, gas, since also 4 hours of now, and sometimes it used to be 3. Didn't have enough bread in our house, so my mother managed to bake some bread by using fire, not by using the electricity itself, which was really stressful for her. So we really feel panic about COVID-19. For me, I don't have a great immune system. Also, I have asthma, so bad news for me if I got infected by COVID-19. Well, for my parents, they are very old and they won't handle to be sick again. So I really feel afraid about it. And the coming days, they are not making or ensuring you, since we have more cases and the updates, it's not really helpful. Beside all of this, I have two brothers, Muhammad and Ibrahim. One of them is 30 and the other is 28. Both of them are volunteering in the municipality. They are working with the people in the neighborhood and afford food, afford many things to the people who they cannot really go out their house. So I'm really afraid that they might be infected and come to my house. So also for all people that who really stuck in their houses and they cannot go out, I'm really afraid of them, especially if they have kids or baby girl or baby boy, so they need more food. So the society in Gaza is divided now. Most of them, or the majority, thinks that COVID-19 is serious illness and it's very dangerous and might cause many diseases, since we have many people who are chronic patients. Besides, we have our health system is not strong enough like other countries. So they think that we can't handle this dilemma. So other people, they are very few people think, well, it's just an ordinary flu, so they didn't really care about it if they get infected or not. Another thing about social media, we have people in social media who just post the news. They are freaking out. So while they are posting the news, they make other people freaking out, which is bad for the community. We need to be silent, and we need to ensure people that it's COVID-19. We can have or we can follow the instructions that the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Internal Affairs asks us to. Beforehand, stay indoors and respect the curfew, while others
Mona, I think you're frozen, but wow, I can only imagine how terrifying it is there. I know how terrifying it was here in the US when it was just beginning. And, you know, for us, it's with first world healthcare and certainly no siege, but rather being a military superpower. Hanan, I want to come back to you and see if our sound is better. Oh, we have you back, Mona.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was the internet. It's really bad connection here.
Yes, we totally understand.
So the last sentence that I say about people in the social media, I think I've ended it.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
And we can hear you. And our hearts go out to you. I can really only imagine what it's like to be in the midst of this pretty much unstoppable outbreak while under siege and airstrikes and so much more. Hanan, I want to come back to you and see if our sound is a bit better. All of these fears that Mona is talking about, how terrifying it is, and to be under lockdown in the midst of these airstrikes and everything that's happening, and people really not knowing what's going on and being controlled so much by fear. What have you been doing, if you could go back to telling us about people's biggest misconceptions and how you're helping educate the public?
First, my sound is clear now or not?
It's so. Let's try turning off your video. I'm going to go ahead and turn off your video, and you can just keep talking.
No. Okay, if we want to talk about increasing awareness level, we are as a youth can play a role in this pandemic by raising out awareness, by reaching out more youth and encourage them to be conscious about their role in protecting themselves and others and their community. Increasing awareness mainly was done through the social media website, including the WhatsApp, including Facebook. For example, in the last Friday, we did the first Facebook Lives with the I did the first Facebook Lives with the doctor to talk about the protective measures during the COVID-19 outbreak in Gaza Strip, in which start talking about COVID-19, how to protect ourselves, what is the sign and the symptom of coronavirus, and how we can protect our beloved one, and encourage people to adhere to the instruction of the Ministry of Health. Also encourage people to, if having any health problem, to call on 103, the toll-free number. During my experience increasing awareness, I found that the people have many misconceptions, including drinking hot water can kill the virus, which is wrong, or taking a very cold or a hot shower can protect you from the virus, which is also wrong. Some people think that COVID-19 is a chronic disease, which is not true. COVID-19, like an influenza, it's like a seasonal disease, it's not a chronic one. Some people also think the virus can spread upon 8 meters, which is wrong. According to the WHO, the virus can spread upon 2 meters. And also, people have many fears from the COVID-19. One of their fears is being a case of COVID-19, or being a case and now the system can provide good health care for them, or maybe becoming a case for COVID-19 and there is no bed in the hospital for the new cases. And one of the biggest fears was a loss of their beloved one. My sound was clear or not?
Your sound was fantastic this time. And I so much want to thank you for this work to educate people. It must make things somewhat more bearable to have more information, and certainly is what's needed in terms of protection, especially as there's such a shortage of ventilators and even tests. Could you tell us about the ventilator situation and testing, how many tests there are and how many tests are needed?
Okay. First, I will start by telling you that Gaza Strip is a place where health infrastructure is almost not exist. And my voice is clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. As I mentioned, is a place where healthcare facilities is almost not exist, and as a result of being blocked for almost 15 years, having a very limited resources from many equipment, including the respiratory and intensive care equipment, medication, infection prevention, and drug supply. According to the Ministry of Health report, a Ministry of Health have 56 ventilator only for all people in Gaza Strip, and if we count the ventilators in the private sector, the number will be 90, which is also a very little number when we compare the number of ventilators to the number of people living in Gaza. For the kit test, we can mention that Gaza Strip mainly depend on the international organization, including WHO and other organization to provide the kit test for the healthcare system. According to the last report, the Ministry of Health needed at least 200 kit tests in each day, and the amount available in the Gaza Strip is can be it's and after 1 month there will be no kit test for COVID-19 in Gaza Strip.
Thank you so much. And now, Basman, I want to turn back to you. How long do you think this lockdown might continue, and how is your family? How are you coping with it? You can also tell us about the electricity shortage and what role that plays in treating coronavirus, but also in coping with this lockdown.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how long the government will extend the lockdown, but I think it will be for at least a month, because we need 2 to 3 weeks to observe and to collect the active cases in the society. So I think it will be like a month or something. It's not easy to cope with the lockdown, especially with the 4 hours of electricity. For me, for my family, we just use the balcony as a resource of fresh air and some not so hot days. And we use some small batteries to charge the Wi-Fi, to charge the fans, and for the lighting. But like, for example, for this day, for this call, I had to wake up at 2 a.m. to charge my laptop, just to be able to make this call with you. But I know it's hard for many families, because I know here in Gaza, many families are just get outside, just go to the beach, just to run from the heat, especially in August. And I don't know how the people will cope with that, because I know not many people can afford to buy even the batteries, even these assistive issues. And I think they will just use like maybe an old plate to just use it as a fan or something. And there are also the idea that there is many people in Gaza here just work for their day. Just they have the daily income, like taxi drivers or people with the cars, just sell on stuff on the cars and issues. So I think it will be really a problem to them with that lockdown, even if they extend for 1 month or more.
So it's not just a shortage of electricity, but also an inadequate supply of clean water in Gaza. I believe it's last I heard, 97% of the water in Gaza isn't fit for human consumption. And yet one of the main protections that we have for coronavirus is hand washing, things that require water. Can you talk about what that is like as well? And how is the personal protective equipment in Gaza? When we talk next with Hanan, we're going to talk about the work she's doing to manufacture masks, but how many masks and other things like hand sanitizer, what's the availability? Oh, go ahead, Basman.
Maybe Hanan can talk about the numbers. I don't know, but I think there is a huge shortage with the masks and the hand sanitizers here in Gaza. And to mention one point, that the electricity shortage affect also the water, because I live in a building like a 14 floor tower, and we need the electricity to pump up the water to my apartment. And when the electricity is just 4 hours, we have a drop with the water. So even the shortage with the electricity affect the water supply here in Gaza.
Hanan, if you can expand on this in terms of the protective equipment, and also tell us about the work that you're doing to manufacture masks.
Yes. When we talked about the personal protective equipment, there is a limited resources of them for the health worker, and As a result of this limited sources, the Ministry of Health tell us as an internship doctors that we can stay home at this stage because the Ministry of Health didn't have a very large equipment for all health workers. So at this stage, the professional doctors only can work in the healthcare in the hospital or primary healthcare, and once they need us and having the needed equipment of personal equipment, protective equipment can announce us to start to complete our training in hospital. And to be aware of the shortage of personal equipment in Gaza, I can tell you that in the last April, some researchers from Harvard University done a research about the availability of personal protective equipment and healthcare worker preparedness for COVID-19 in occupied Palestinian territories, in which the research was done, in which the data was collected from 138 healthcare workers. The result was uh, only 11.6% of health workers felt confident in dealing with potential COVID-19 cases. More than 70% didn't always have access to face mask when needed, and more than 92% didn't always have eye protection when needed, and more than 95% didn't always have access to an 95 respirators mask when needed, which is the mask that needed when dealing with any person suspected or infected with COVID-19. I can put the link of this study in the chat for anyone interested to read it, which is published these numbers can be clear how Gaza Strip have a very limited resources of personal protective equipment for health workers.
Thank you so much, Hanan. And as we wind up and finish up, I would like to go back to Mona. And Mona, if you can tell us a bit about your work with We Are Not Numbers and what the people of Gaza need from those of us around the world as you deal with this pandemic and this siege and so much, what we can do to help. And I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Now about my work is that We Are Not Numbers. It's really interesting that we have something in common. Every person or in every one, I can walk in the streets and just look to their facial expressions. I can see for sure that there is a story to be written. So We Are Not Numbers help me with that. So I can write stories in English and just describe everything that can I see from one's facial expressions or from other stories that I've been told. That's number one. Number two, that about really people inside Gaza and how much it's really important for others outside Gaza to know about us. Well, there is very a misconception about people who lives in Gaza that we under wars, etc. It's really different for people to understand that we are human beings and we are humans, so we have feelings, we can love each other, and sometimes we can have conflicts among each other's or arguments. So it's very important that others or the international community itself knows about Palestinian suffering in Gaza and knows about our own stories as humans, what will happen for us if we are without electricity, for example, for 3 or 4 hours a day. So they can imagine themselves live in such circumstances and see how much it's hard. So our voice must be very loud so others can understand it and also feel it. It's not only about, okay, I'm reading a story, what's happening, what might happen in the end. Is it it's a happy ending or a miserable ending? About a human here in Gaza, which is very important that we need to respect him or her and listen to him or her about his suffering or her suffering and also know how to support him or her. It's not only about saying, okay, we are with you, we support you. We need practical solutions about what's really happening here in Gaza. A report about United Nations in 2012 said that Gaza by 2020 will be unlivable. Well, it happened that the report was about the shortages and outages in Gaza without taking in consideration COVID-19. So now we have COVID-19 and we really need to say our stories about what we live under COVID-19 and the curfew, that all the people around the world can feel our suffering and live the life as we live it, even if it just means that we need to write a story about it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you to all three of you. And we have a question in the chat box about whether Israel is providing any personal protective equipment. And for anybody who isn't aware, Israel is identified under international law as being responsible for the well-being of the people of Gaza as the occupier. And so they should be providing personal protective equipment. And we have a second question. And Basman, I'm going to begin this with you in terms of Israel providing any personal protective equipment. And then any of you, what NGOs are able to get emergency medical supplies into Gaza right now?
Okay, I'm not quite sure if Israel is providing any protective equipment.
No.
The point is, Israel as an occupation, it doesn't have any responsibility toward Gaza, and the best example is 4 hours of electricity. I personally forget the taste of full day of electricity. And for the equipment, I think it's the medical organization or the national organization, as Hanan said, the WHO and other organizations who are now responsible to provide some equipment. I'm not sure about if Israel provide any help with that.
Hanan, is this something that you could speak a bit more to?
Okay, I will stop the video as the internet connection will be better. Okay.
Yes. The sound is good right now.
Okay. Till this moment, the Israel don't provide any personal protective equipment for Gaza Strip, and the personal and the equipment was mainly from the WHO and ICRC, also from some organization like Palestine Relief Association and the MSF, which is Doctors Without Borders. They are the main NGOs that provide a help for the healthcare system. And before 2 days, I just read that the UNDP provide 10 ventilators for healthcare system. For the point that about the Israel, the Ministry of Health can appeal to the United Nations to lift the illegal and inhuman blockade on Gaza Strip and to support the urgent need of health system to face the COVID-19, including the respiratory and intensive care equipment. So the Israel, okay.
No, go ahead. Continue, please.
So the Israel have many question marks about the situation in Gaza. Why they didn't provide the main equipment for healthcare system during the past 15 years? The past 15 years. As I mentioned, the healthcare system in Gaza Strip is the infrastructure of healthcare system is really or almost not exist. And if we have a well-developed healthcare system, Gaza Strip can deal with this outbreak. But from the start of the outbreak, the healthcare system start to tell people and start to call for many organizations to help us to face this outbreak.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our guests. And I want to, as we finish up, I want to let folks know what you can do to take action. So we at CODEPINK are appealing to Congress, to the United Nations, and to the World Health Organization to speak out on the necessity of lifting the blockade, because if there's one way really to help Gaza right now with the coronavirus pandemic, it is by lifting the blockade. We have got to get to the root of the problem in Gaza, and that is the siege and the occupation and the brutal system of apartheid. So you can go to codepink.org/COVID-19 Gaza Congress, and I have shared that in the chat, the link. And through that, you can send a message to your members of Congress and to the UN and the World Health Organization to speak up and take any actions that they can to put pressure on Israel. And I would say the best action is to condition US military aid to Israel, to pressure Israel to lift the siege on Gaza. I want to thank all three of you so much for being on with us today and for all the work that you're doing. We send our love and support from CODEPINK and from everybody here in America who's in solidarity with your struggle. And I encourage all of our listeners to check out We Are Not Numbers, that's wearenotnumbers.org, and read the many stories about life in Gaza under siege, including now as this pandemic is taking hold. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Ariel, and thanks to CODEPINK for having us and to all who support us from all over the world. Thank you.
Thanks for your support, and it's our pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for your support.
I think it was a great meeting. Thank you for your support and everything that you are doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody